Yo, I just want to remind you that you're gonna crush it today.
Yo, welcome back to the lab. I'm your host, Elias Benjaloon. Join me as we dive into the science behind the hustle of badass entrepreneurs working smarter, not just harder. In every experiment, we're gonna dive in on business tactics and life lessons, enjoy some hip hop, and experience a moment of gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's win this digital revolution together. As always, we're gonna kick things off with some dope music, so I'll see you in there. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Science Experiment. I'm super excited because I've got the legendary Nathan Hirsch on the show today. He is the founder of the FreeeUp platform, which we'll talk about today. Nathan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, man. So I'm super excited to dive into the business lesson of today since you're like the king of outsourcing right now. But before we do that, how about you kick us off by talking about how you got into entrepreneurship in the first place?
Yeah. So, I was a broke college kid. My parents were both teachers, and I grew up with the mentality that I was going to go to school, get a real job, work for 30 years and retire. And that was going to be my life. And
sounds like the dream.
Exactly. and my parents actually do that now, and they travel the world and they saved up and they retired and they love life. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I learned at a pretty young age that was not for me. I had these summer jobs, summer internships. I worked at Firestone and Aaron's, which is kind of like a rent-a-center. And I learned a lot about customer service and sales and marketing. But I also just learned how much I hated it. I was watching the clock every day. I couldn't wait to leave. And so when I got to college, I kind of looked at it as a ticking clock. If I didn't figure out how to start a business before I graduated, then I was going to be stuck in the real world forever. I'd have to pay bills and get a job and all that. So I started hustling and buying and selling people's textbooks. I took that summer money that I'd made at the internships. I created a for sale sign and I started competing with my school bookstore to the point where I got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off because I was stealing too much of their business. And I had lines out the door. So I had a little bit of success, but I knew I couldn't sell books long-term. I didn't really want to get kicked out of college. So I pivoted a little bit. And I just started selling books on Amazon. This was 2008. No one knew what Amazon was. No one knew what an Amazon seller was. Didn't really exist. And I thought it was so cool. I could have this 24/7 storefront that ran and I just had to figure out what products to sell. So I started experimenting with home goods and video games, computers, outdoor products, sporting equipment, typical college guy stuff. And I just failed over and over and over. And it wasn't until I branched out of my comfort zone and found the baby product industry that my business took off. So if you can imagine me as a 20-year-old college guy selling baby products on Amazon, that was me. And that was my first real business.
Nice. That's awesome, man. And since then you've gone on to build like a total empire helping Amazon store owners and beyond that. What led you to founding FreeeUp and all the success you had there?
So it's funny. I'm making this money with my Amazon business, and my parents tell me I should probably pay taxes, right? So I meet with an accountant. Exactly. I meet with an accountant, and the first thing he asked me is, when are you going to hire your first person? And I kind of shrugged him off. Like, why would I do that? That's money out of my pocket. They're going to steal my ideas. They're going to hurt my business. Pretty standard entrepreneurial stuff. And he just laughed in my face. And he said, you're going to learn this lesson on your own. Well, sure enough, my first busy season comes around and I just get destroyed. I'm working 20 hours a day. My social life plummets. My grades go down. And I work my butt off to get to the other side to keep my business afloat. And when I get there, I think to myself, man, I can never let that happen again. That was all me. I did every little thing that busy season.
Yeah.
I need to start hiring people.
And a lot of that work was stuck doing like the repeatable fulfillment stuff, pretty much. Customer service,
listing products, repricing. There was no software back then. There was no Amazon software. So everything was manual. So yeah, I posted a job on Facebook. I know nothing about interviewing. First guy that applies, he shoots me a message, says, I don't know what you do. I need a job. I say, you're hired. And he ends up being this amazing person. He's hardworking. He's smart. He brings a lot to the table. I end up making him my business partner. Years later, he's co-owners of FreeeUp. So I hit jackpot, like right from the beginning, total luck, nothing to do with me. And there I am as this punk 20-year-old thinking, man, this hiring thing is easy. You post a job on Facebook, someone shows up, you make more money, your life becomes easier. And I just proceed to make bad hire after bad hire.
Oh, shit.
Bad hire. And I learn a lot about hiring, but I also learned how tough it is for a 20, 21-year-old to hire people in person. I mean, no one took me seriously. And I go into the remote hiring world, the Upworks, the Fiverr, there's Odesk at the time. And I hired some good people, some people that are still with me today. But it was also such a process. You post a job, you get bombarded by applicants, you interview them, you pick someone, you hope it works out. If it doesn't, you start all over again. And I just wanted something better and faster. And that's when I came up with the idea of FreeeUp.
That's incredible, man. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I'm 30. I just turned 30.
All right. Just turned a decade. So this is really exciting because you're going to pack literally a decade's worth of knowledge right now and going to give this massive shortcut to everybody listening. Let's dive into the business lesson. What is the business lesson for today?
Yeah. So I'm going to go through my 5-step hiring process and how
Awesome.
I go about figuring out who to hire.
All right, let's dive in. What are the 5 steps?
So before you even start the 5 steps, you want to figure out your budget. All right. Look at how much money you made last month and think, how aggressive do you want to be? Do you want to be really aggressive? Maybe you're investing 40, 60% of your profits back into the business, into hiring. If you want to be more conservative, we're all at a different place in our life, in our business. Maybe it's 10 to 30%, but figure out what that percentage is. And you can always go up a little or down a little every month. But if you don't know what you can realistically spend and still be happy with what you're making, you're really not ready to hire yet.
Okay.
So once you figure out that budget, step 1 is get away from your business.
Sorry for cutting you off, but real quickly, for benchmarking, like, can you give us some ranges into like what is a minimally acceptable budget for making your first hire versus, maybe something that shows that you are a medium-sized startup ready to scale?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. There could be people listening that aren't ready to commit $500 a week. $500 a week doesn't sound very much, but they can't afford that. So instead, you can think of it more project-based. Can you afford $500 a month in projects, like less repeatable work, just one-time things? Do you need a website, a logo, whatever it is? So it's tough to be like, oh, if you're this big of a business, you should be spending this much. And if you're doing $5 million a year in revenue, that doesn't necessarily mean you're making that much money. You could be in the hole a lot of money there too. So we're all in different places. It comes down to how much money you're actually making, but also just your comfort level. And there's people that run amazing businesses that are all automated and they don't need to hire anyone. They can run it primarily by themselves, or maybe they have a $5 an hour VA working 5 hours a week and that's fine too. And other people that are doing $1 million a year have 10 different people doing things all over the place, 30 to 40 hours a week.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome, man. Thank you. Let's dive in.
Yeah. So step 1, get away from your business and you're going to make 2 lists. The first list is everything you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And you're going to prioritize it from easiest to hardest and also write down how many hours a week that actually takes you. And is it a $5 an hour task, a $20 an hour task, a $100 an hour task, to put in some perspective whether you should be doing that task or not. Because at some point you have to stop doing tasks that are lower than your hourly rate.
Yeah.
The second list is everything that you're not good at. One of the best activities my business partner Connor and I did back in the day was we sat down and we said, you're bad at this. And we just wrote it all down. And at the end, we realized we complement each other very well, but we also were doing all these things every week that neither of us were good at. So we started hiring specialists and experts to turn those weaknesses into strengths. And that's really the 2 ways to hire. You're going to take things off your plate, hire a VA, hire a follower to do those things in your system, your process, or you're going to hire a mid-level specialist or an expert to do the things that you're not good at. And that's step 1 is creating those lists.
Awesome. I love that. And I feel like going through my own hiring process, I've been going through the hiring process for the first time ever in my business is, that we started off by hiring for roles that we can outsource, all those repeatable tasks that were just super easy to outsource. And just this week, we made our first mid-specialist hire with a project manager because I hate project management. I'm not good at project management. Realized neither are my co-founders. And so really excited for this one hire. What's step 2, man? What's the next thing?
Step 2 is figure out what your perfect person looks like. Is it someone in your office? Is it a freelancer in the US, someone in the Philippines? What's their price range? What type of people do you work well with? I tend to talk fast and move fast and be direct. If someone's warm and fuzzy, and they might be a great freelancer, but they're warm and fuzzy and they go at a slower pace, they're probably not going to work well with me. So figure out the type of person that you actually want. Is it full-time? Is it part-time? Is it project-based? And write that down, because if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, it's not one of those things that you'll know it when you see it. You have to have a good game plan of what that ideal person or agency looks like.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I love that. And what about culture, like company culture and values? Is that something that you consider at this step too?
Definitely. I mean, you want to know what type of people you surround yourself with. If you're a cutthroat real estate agency, then maybe you want to hire people that are aggressive and they're all about sales. If you're more of a startup mentality, like I'm assuming you are and I am, I mean, it's a much different type of culture. So you have to know what type of people you're looking for.
Awesome, man. I love that. What's next?
Step 3 is vet for skill, attitude, and communication. And that's kind of where the culture comes in and the attitude as well. So I mean, for years, I hired people for skill, and they'd be a great at what they did. They'd have a great resume, and 3 months later, I'd be pissed off because it didn't work out, and we were frustrated with each other. And I'd sit there wondering, how is that possible when they were so talented with the skill? But the attitude and the communication are just as important. You want people who can communicate at a high level, that can get on the same page with meetings, that can hit deadlines, that can let you know if there's a personal issue or a delay. You want people with a great attitude who are passionate about what they do and aren't just in it for the paycheck, that actually like being there, like bookkeeping or writing or whatever it is, that don't get aggressive when something doesn't go their way. So focus on that trifecta: the skill, the attitude, and the communication.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think the communication piece is definitely probably the most underrated when people start hiring. I mean, at least it was for me, but I saw some really good content from you and some other guys in this space that talked about it a lot, and especially with working with VAs from other countries, how important communication was in the context of making sure they can communicate well, but also communicating in ways that, work with their culture as well. What is
I completely agree.
What's the next step?
Next step is all about setting expectations. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. They hire someone, they assume the person is going to know exactly what to do and exactly how to act and who to contact and what your pet peeves are. And a month later, you're pissed off and frustrated. So spend that extra time right after the hire to just get on the same page. Keep in mind, virtual assistants, freelancers, they work with lots of different clients that all like different things. What's good for one is bad for another. And you want to spend that extra time to get on the same page with what makes sense for your business, or in some cases, that particular project. Go over the scope, go over what's success, what's failures, what the milestone, the budget, all that stuff right from the beginning.
Awesome, man. And I think now this is the final step. We blew through this pretty quickly.
The final step, and my personal favorite, is the feedback loop. And a quick story. Back in the day, I had 50% turnover. People were quitting on me all the time. I couldn't get anyone to stay. And I was frustrated because the same person had quit for the same position. So I've gone through 3 different people, the same position. And finally I had had enough, and I had an exit interview. And I don't know if you've ever had an exit interview before, but it's incredibly uncomfortable. You're talking with someone who's mad at you, you're mad at them. And I asked him for feedback, and he hit me to my core. He told me everything that was wrong with me as a leader, as a manager, with my culture, with the other people I hired, with my interview process, with my business model, with my customer service, everything. He just destroyed me. But I should have written that guy a check right there, because that information saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars down the line. And the last thing that he said to me has always stuck with me. He said, "Nate, I've been here for 3 months, 4 months, whatever it was." And he said, "This is the first time you've ever asked me for my feedback." Pretty powerful. So for me, I go out of my way to ask people for feedback. I kind of have a unofficial rule where learn everything first. So you're not just giving feedback on stuff that you don't know anything about. But after that, we want to hear your feedback. We want to know, what do you like? What do you not like? We want to create an environment where people are comfortable doing that. And I have to be able to give feedback back. I can't work with people that take feedback personally and that can't handle it on a professional level. So that feedback loop is so key. When you create an environment where you set expectations, and then you can go in and give feedback based on those expectations, and you can receive feedback from people that are doing a lot of tasks that as you get bigger, you're no longer overseeing every single day. That's how you get a really good business model to improve. That's how you reduce turnover, And that really completes my 5-step hiring process.
Awesome, man. That is incredible. Thank you for sharing all that. And I think the feedback loop is absolutely important. Just on, like you said, on you becoming a better leader, like you need to listen to your tribe and hear what they have to say. Are there any like leadership books or leadership thought leaders that you look to that have kind of helped you create this framework?
It's funny. One person that I've started to follow more recently is Gary Vee, who everyone follows.
Right.
But if you just look at his just how to hire content, it's great. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that I believe in. And one of the things that he says that I really like is if you don't know what motivates the people that you're working with, you're just at a huge disadvantage. They can leave at any given time. You got to meet with them. You got to go out to dinner with them. You got to talk to them. Is it money? Is it title? Is it responsibility? Is it growth? Are they content where they are? They just want stability. Like if you don't know what that is that motivates the people around you, you can't do anything. You can't do anything as a leader. So for me, that's been key. And that's just someone I've been following a lot recently. To be honest, most of the stuff growing up, I mean, I didn't read any leadership books. I thought I figured everything out right from the beginning. I thought I was on top of the world and that I knew everything. And I quickly realized that wasn't the case. And I worked hard with my business partner, Connor, to make adjustments based on feedback more than I did so books or influencers.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, it's good that you at least went through that feedback loop in your own company. And, I love Gary Vee too. I mean, I think he has like 1,000-person agency, or maybe more than that. On that note, I mean, I know you have a pretty massive personal team. Like I think you told me once you had a team of like 40 people on your staff. Do you see that growing to 1,000 one day? Like where are your sites headed?
It's funny. Someone this morning was like, do you think FreeeUp will go public someday? I'm like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Like Upwork 5 just went public. They're still way bigger than us. I mean, sure. I think everyone wants to get a big team, and I don't have a personal goal. Like I need to have 1,000 people. Keep in mind, managing people is also a process too. And it takes a lot of time as well. So we do have over 40 something VAs in the Philippines that we got on our platform that do our customer service, our billing, our social media. We've got a lot of high level people too that aren't really part of our team, but they're freelancers or agencies that run different parts, whether it's our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook ads, or whatever it is. So for that we do, and we're always looking to grow, but there's also a part of automation too. I mean, one thing that we're doing now is we have a developer who's going into different teams and saying, all right, how can we get more out of this same group of 12 people? Let's figure out what tasks are not adding value that you're doing over and over, and let's make those tasks faster. So sometimes it's not always about getting bigger. Sometimes it's about doing more with the same people.
Awesome, man. Yeah. After the systems and delegation, then there's automation that you can kind of save people's time. And thank you, Nathan. That's incredible, man. Let's dive right into the moment of gratitude. We do this because, given the space that we're in, some people like go through those hard days and for a ton of different reasons, but some of those reasons is that constant search for external validation. I just want to kick that shit to the curb because screw external validation. Everything you have is inside of you. You can get that. And I think if you just focus on gratitude and focus on the things to be grateful for. I mean, we are alive in the 21st century. Both of us are in the United States. I mean, there are so many things already right then and there to be grateful for. But out of anything in the world right now, what are you feeling particularly grateful for today?
I'm grateful for just the health of my family. I mean, my dad just turned 71 yesterday. He's a little bit older. My parents are, knock on wood, in really good, healthy shape. They're hiking mountains. They're biking every day. They're an older couple that are just killing it. And I'm so fortunate that they've been able to stick around this long, and hopefully they've got another good 20 years in them. So for me, that's grateful. I mean, you can always make more money and all that, but the fact that you surround yourself with people that you love and that you care about, that have supported you when you weren't successful, I mean, to me, that's more important than anything else. Absolutely, man. I love that. Piggybacking off of that, I always share my moment of gratitude. I'm grateful for, my family believing in me to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I know not everybody is given that opportunity. Some people kind of get shunned by their family when they make the decision, especially, I'm the oldest son of an immigrant family that was pre-med, and then I made the shift from that into a startup. And so grateful for that. Let's dive into the next thing, which is our life lesson. What is our life lesson for today? My life lesson is to there's so many ups and downs when you're an entrepreneur, right? When you're on that up, you think you're invincible. When you're on that down, you think that life is over. You got to figure out how to stay that even keel. When things are going great, you want to figure out, okay, what threats do I have? What can I do to stay up here? How can I continue to get better and not be satisfied? And when you're down, you got to think, man, I'm just one good problem solving session away from getting back on top and getting back on the right track. So for me, figure out how to become numb to those ups and downs, highs and lows, and be even keeled. So I think that'll make you a lot more successful as a business owner.
Awesome, man. Definitely. What are some of the things that you do to kind of like balance out the ups and downs as you go through, the ups and downs of business and life? Like, how do you keep your emotions and your personal state of being to a center?
I always joke that my business partner, Connor, he's my business partner. And he's also my psychologist too, because I'm a very high energy guy. If you can't tell, I can tell. I'm all over the place. So for me, like I take client issues very personally. We're fortunate enough, knock on wood, that we have amazing freelancers on our platform that 99.9% of the time they do a great job and we never run into everything. Every once in a while, these are real people. Stuff happens. Sometimes it's no one's fault. It's just not a right match. Even the best freelancers in the world aren't the best fit for every single client out there. And I care about people's businesses. So if a client does have a bad experience, then I take it hard. I want to fix it. I want to make it right. And sometimes it's not always possible. If someone misses a due date or something, I can't go back in time. So for me, sometimes I'm more in the day-to-day than he is. So sometimes stuff like that will bring me a little down, a little below the neutral line. And by talking to my partner and even my fiance, that kind of stuff keeps me back on keel. So to me, it's all about that support system.
Awesome, man. It's that communication, talking your feelings through and having those people back you up. Nathan, this has been incredible, man. Thank you so much for the value. I mean, that 5-step framework is incredible. I'm going to make sure to summarize that when we post this. Now is your moment to plug. How can people get in touch with you and work with you?
Yeah, so join my Facebook group, Outsourcing Masters. We're posting a lot of great content. If you like that 5-step hiring process, we got a lot more like that. We got mistakes to avoid, different tactics for hiring different skill sets, all sorts of things. Go to freeup.com with 3 E's. My calendar, my assistant's calendar is right at the top. You can book a meeting with us. You can create a free account, mention this podcast, get a $25 credit to try us out. And I look forward to working with a lot of you.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.